Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here again, and it's time for another Orns 10-minute take on the Liverpool 2, Watford nil. A Watford side at Anfield today that performed, I think, quite well, given everything, given the opponent, given the circumstances. I think Watford acquitted themselves very well indeed today for the most part, played especially well in the first half. The game plan was going according to plan from Roy Hodgson. The players had balance, I think, in all thirds of the pitch, but they just did not execute their opportunities in that first half. A golden opportunity for Uray Kuchka, and he did not deliver. Second time in 2 games now that Kuchka has had a one-on-one with a goalkeeper and has not been able to finish. It was at Southampton 3 weeks ago where he had that same chance that he did today against Allison in the Liverpool goal, a goal that would have put Watford 1-0 to the good had Kuchka executed, but no finishing today for Watford. That really was the key in this game as a Liverpool side that to me was under par today, partly because of the international break, I think, but also partly because Watford's pressure and their defensive shape did stifle Liverpool at times, limiting Liverpool to really 2 or 3 chances for the entire game. They had 2 shots on target, and those are the penalty that I'll talk about in a moment. And of course, the goal that they scored after the Kuchka miss that I just mentioned, that was a really sublime cross from the goal. It was a sublime cross from Joe Gomez that I think caught Ben Foster out. He was at 6s and 7s. Maybe he left his line too early. Maybe he did not. Maybe the defending did not block out the cross. But really, however you slice it, ball came in, and Jota, who is always ready to get his goal, came in and pushed it past Foster, who had swiped at air, and a goal for Liverpool, 1-0 to the Reds. And Liverpool, from there, didn't really capitalize in that first half on what they had. And credit to Watford for that, because, they did not drop their heads. They continued to press forward and continued to stay with the game plan. They kept their shape for the most part in the first half, and their character continued to grow in that first half as they saw the half out 1-0 down and given themselves every opportunity in the match to continue on and perhaps nick something from the match. Roy Hodgson and his Chargers continued in the second half to play fairly well, but not quite as well as in the first half. Liverpool grew more frustrated, but they did have some opportunities where there was some Liverpool players left completely unmarked. Salah missing a golden chance. There were other chances. Jota heading just over the bar in the second half in front of the cop that would have given Liverpool their points secured earlier in the game, but they had to wait until the 87th minute or so. Uray Kuchka, who must have thought he was playing rugby or had a flashback to some non-existent WWE days for him, as he absolutely body slammed one of the Liverpool players. I mean, it was a real reckless takedown. It was something you don't typically see in football, not quite to that degree. It was an extravagantly bizarre and absolutely confounding move by Kuchka as he brought down a Liverpool player in the box, and VAR was on it like a flash, and stonewall penalty, no question and no complaints. And it was given by Stuart Atwell, and the rest was history. Up stepped Fabinho and made it 2-0, and that really was that for Watford. Before that moment, Watford had a couple of opportunities, none larger in the second half than from João Pedro, who really should have made better of his chance. Oh, goodness gracious me. He did not finish the chance that would have made it a 1-1 game. And that really is the tale of the tape in this one. Watford just not good enough with the cutting edge that they needed to get points from this game against really one of the world's best sides. There's no question about it. Liverpool have been top class all season long and a cut above the rest. Really, they and Manchester City are cut above the rest of the Premier League. And Liverpool, while not playing particularly well by their standards today, still had more than enough to brush Watford aside. But that second goal was cruel and completely unnecessary. A penalty given away by Kuchka that really did hurt the Watford cause. And at that point, then it was pretty much game over, as Watford did not really mount much more of an effort on that Liverpool goal. But one thing that I take out of this game is that there is an improved attitude in these Watford players. They played for each other today. That's something that we haven't said too much of this season. They really did play for each other today. Of course, there were those two incidents and mistakes that happened, and the reckless challenge by Kuchka, the ridiculous taking down of a Liverpool player that really was not a help to anybody in the Watford team. But overall, beside those things, the players played for each other today. The players, I think, were on the same page today. I noticed that they seemed to be a bit more generous. They had a bit more spirit and energy about them. And then when Dennis came on, he really didn't add anything to those proceedings as Watford began to tire in that second half around the 75th minute. But Dennis did not really make himself visible at all in this game, even though he came on as a sub. Just not good enough as far as I can see. But generally speaking, the defense was very good. I think they were, for the most part, very good. I thought Samir and Cavasele were spot on. I liked what Camara did in the game. I thought he was particularly very good, as was Femenia. Kiko got the balance right for the most part. I think he did very well indeed. The midfield, well, not perfect by any stretch, but Sissoko, I think I loved the way he was running today. I loved the way he tried to marshal things. And I think for the most part, he was successful, although ran himself really into the ground. He did everything today. He was defending as well. He was a right back at one moment. I mean, he was just all over the place. So I really think that Sissoko deserves some credit, even in a loss like this, because he was trying to lead by example as the Watford captain. Watford had their chances, as I said. They had two chances. Liverpool really had two clear-cut chances. And look, two shots on target for both of these teams. But look, in the end, three shots on target for Liverpool, two rather for Watford. And in the end, though, that was it. The thin margins of these games, just not enough for Watford. Just did not have that cutting edge in the finishing department, which is what was so desperately needed. But again, what I take away is another solid away performance despite the result. I do think that Watford can be heartened by the fact that the confidence is there and the belief is there for this Watford side, but they just need to get the all-important goals, and that will have to come, of course, next Saturday against Leeds at the Vic. It is all hands on deck. Now, this game today against Liverpool, look, we can talk all we want about how you have to win these games, but most people of a Watford persuasion did not expect Watford to take 3 points away from Anfield back down to Hertfordshire. That was not expected by most people. It's not to say that we should lower our expectations here, although many have, of course, with the way Watford have played throughout most of the season. It is, though, that you can take something out of this game and hopefully bring it forward to the next one. And Watford are going to have to do that here. Some of the things that did work were the balls over the top, the balls down the sides. I think those were good things for Watford, and some of the interplay was quite good, but the quality of passing still needs to be sharper for this, and the decision making still needs to be better. If I were Roy Hodgson, I would play this particular side again, although perhaps I would remove Kuchka from there and maybe have someone in there who's a little bit different. But we will see what Roy does next week. But this game is, I guess, a matter of what could have been. And when you don't take your chances in these games, especially against the Liverpool side that really was not up to top notch in their own estimation, you do get burned and you do get punished. And that was the final score of Liverpool 2, Watford 0. This has been the Orns 10-minute take.